to a special edition of the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster, and today we have the fourth installment in our weekly shows involving Replenishing Care and Technologies founder James Comerford, whose company uses a wide mix of cellular health technologies and tools to help improve athletic performance and overall health. Today, James is going to talk about a human performance technology called VOXX Life, which I've been personally using with great success. And VOXX Life are socks and basically shoe inserts that help your feet, help your legs, and I can tell you this, James sent this to me about a month ago. He sent me the shoe inserts, and I've been losing weight, and I've been doing a lot of walking, and I've had a few knee surgeries from past injuries, and I had never really been able to walk more than a mile and a half comfortably, and as soon as I got these socks, within probably a week, I was up to 2.5 miles. I'm going about 3.5 now. And actually, if it wasn't for the fact that I just had a ton of stuff to do, I could keep walking in these. I haven't had any foot issues. My feet have been much better. No issues with the knees. So without any further ado, I want to welcome James Comerford to the show. And I would like to start off, James, for those who may not have heard our last show, perhaps you could explain exactly what Replenishing Care and Technologies is.
Well, thank you, Mike. Obviously, it'd be my pleasure to do that, and I'm delighted you're doing so well with the insoles of the socks. I'm not surprised a bit. Basically, Replenishing Care and Technologies is a personal best performance and personal best fitness system that helps people perform at their best by helping their bodies heal and repair at their best. And if somebody wants to have a look at the website, it is www.rcandt.com. So again, R for Richard, C for Charles, the word and, T for Thomas.com. I'll just continue on in that kind of discussion a little bit, if I may. I mean, what this all comes down to, excuse me, is that the human body has an innate ability to heal and repair. That is literally our greatest health resource. And when it's fully engaged, the internal healing capacity raises wellness outcomes and athletic and life performance exponentially. And it amplifies the positive contributions of things like professional care and athletic training, good nutrition and or exercise practices, just like the ones that you just shared, Mike. And it's really all based upon using, restoring, and amplifying the body's own ability to heal and keep us at our best. And so VOXX fits beautifully into that.
Okay, so maybe tell us a little bit why VOXX Life, HPT, Replenishing Care, how does it fit together?
Well, basically the mechanism we use as part of what we call a recipe are 11 plus cellular health technologies that we put together. And those technologies or tools either help cells have the resources, or it gives cells the resources to perform, heal, and repair, or it helps restore the body to homeostasis and or balance. VOXX Life pretty much fits kind of very broadly, actually, but I'm going to, for purposes of this discussion, say it mostly fits into the second group, which help the body stay in balance and homeostasis. And it actually does this by optimizing a person's own neurology, correcting neurological dysregulation, which occurs over time through a whole host of factors. And it actually reboots the brain's various networks from pain, anxiety, default mode, those types of things, literally within seconds of employing the socks, the insoles, and there's actually patches you can get that go on the arms as well. And one of the things I like best, and this applies literally to everything else we do as well, is it does no harm. I mean, it can only help you, it can't hurt you. So I really like that about it as well.
Yeah, that's what I like about everything you've got at Replenishing Care and Technologies also, because when you watch, I mean, if you're sitting there and you're watching a football game and a commercial comes on about a medicine, it seems like they tell you more of the harm that it could do when you take it than what it could do to help you. And that's always kind of freaked me out a little bit. So do you want to talk a little bit about the importance of homeostasis for a bit?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I mean, we touched on that last week in the CBD show as well. And I mean, CBD is all about homeostasis. But basically what homeostasis refers to is the ability of an organism, person obviously is an organism, to maintain stability in spite of changes. And the human body has all kinds of examples of that, from temperature, glucose, blood pressure, pH balance, and so forth. So if you think of where neurology fits into the human body, when you start thinking of the brain, the spine, nerves, neurotransmitter system, etc., it's about as important as it gets. And so if anybody has had a chance to look at the rcnt.com site, on that you'll see a reference, or at least down at the bottom, you'll see 4 other sites that are part of what we do that go together to be part of the recipe, or as we call it, the ingredients of the recipe. So down there you'll see a reference to another website that is www.VOXX replenishingcare.com. And at the top of that, the first thing you're going to see is literally a 10-second video. And when I saw this, I was absolutely sold. And I hate to use that word, but it just had me at hello, maybe to say it in a better way. It is an excerpt from a QEEG, or brain map, in which the person's brain changed from red, and red indicates overstimulation, confusion, anxiety, bombardment, to green, which indicates the greatest reserve and balance, literally in 7 seconds. That's how fast it works. And in that time, I'll just kind of reiterate, it optimized that person's neurology, it fixed neurological dysregulation, and rebooted the various, networks in the body. And it did it at whatever was the level of that person to do it, which again fits in with everything we do, is that it pretty much adapts. It'll do for an athlete what it's going to do for an athlete based upon his or her fitness or performance level. It'll do something sort of it's going to help me as much as it can help. And I classify myself as a weekend warrior who's gotten over a terrible, debilitating illness a long time ago. Or anyone else who's interested in wellness or somewhere along that spectrum of health.
All right, so what is it that VOXX Life does?
To go back to your, description of getting the socks or the insoles and using them, one of the things that impressed me a lot about the VOXX Life is it is ingenious. Basically, what it is think of it as a neuropath pattern. I call it a neurological algorithm because that's kind of the language I like. And it is simply embedded in a special set of insoles, woven into socks, or embedded in special patches that go on the forearm. And it's all about communicating with the peripheral nervous system. And basically what happens, and we'll just talk about, say, the insoles or the socks, we have dermatome receptors on the soles of the feet, or on the balls of the feet. And basically what will happen is the moment that the insoles or the socks with the pattern, in them interact with the dermatome receptors, they send a signal to the central nervous system and the brainstem, which in turn sends a message to the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system, basically having everything upregulate. And if you're a medical person and you hear upregulate and you think that's a bad thing, in this case, what we're talking about in upregulation is it's simply making it work better. It makes it work more efficiently, effectively, gives it more energy, and all of those kind of things. It basically clears away a lot of the clutter that keeps things from working the way that it should. And so basically what you have is all of those systems collectively control the skeletal muscle contractions, the automatic regulation of smooth muscles, even the heart muscle, glands, and adipose tissue. And basically, as a result of that, 2 things will happen for anybody who does the test. And it's a real simple test. We do a before and after test on dynamic, meaning front and forward and backward balance, and also lateral stability, which is side to side, and basically overall stability, balance. And basically what will happen is we'll do a test where somebody will try just standing on the ground without the insoles or the socks in place. and they'll generally find that they can be tipped forward or backward or to the side fairly easily. About 7 seconds after putting on these socks or insoles, that ability or their stability and balance is increased by up to 30%. And there are a whole lot of other collateral benefits that go along as well in terms of velocity of force, excuse me, more power, more energy, and a whole host of other things that apply, whether it's in athletic performance or in life. And so, essentially what it is it works with whatever a person has to work with to have the best neurology they can possibly have. And that neurology obviously cascades over into a whole host of improvements in the body that are seen very, very rapidly. Over time, the benefits start to accumulate. So you start to maintain the benefits with or without the socks or insoles in place. And the price is less than $50, which blew me away. I mean, it's just remarkable. So, and it even has a 30-day money-back guarantee. So people can try this with virtually no risk. But I've never had anybody ever say they didn't, want to keep them.
All right, James. So who is this for? Do you use it personally? And do you have any favorite success stories that you want to share with our listeners?
Well, I know there's a lot of athletes connected to this, so I'm going to start with a very elite hockey player that I did the test with on the dynamic and lateral stability and balance. A very, very charming individual, wonderful to meet, very expressive. And when we did the before and after test with him, his eyes went like saucers. And he literally, I did the test with him at 3 p.m, and that night he was wearing socks and insoles in a game and even commenting on how much better his hands and stick handling felt. He's already an incredible skater. I have another elite hockey player. Obviously, we're into the summer now, and I visited with him recently, and he was putting them on before he went out to have a golf game simply because of the effects it had for him there. He'd also obviously had the benefits over the course of the season. I'll talk about me, and I don't mean it that way, but I'll share my own experience. I started running in 1979 and pretty much made it a daily activity, and not because I was training for anything and not because I was terribly disciplined. I had very, very high-level anxiety that went non-diagnosed for a very long time, even though it was like an elephant in the room. So running became my way of kind of dealing with, daily activities and kind of feeling, calm and relaxed and at my best. And in a sidebar, I even tried to run with Guillain-Barré thinking that would fix it, but that didn't go very well. Anyhow, as you can imagine, 40 years of running, even with all the wonderful things I have to work with, have contributed some wear and tear things along the way. And I had about a 6-month period last year where I literally felt like I was running against my body was the only description for it. And I just figured, hey, maybe it's that time in life. Anyhow, I put on the insoles one morning, and we work with something called pelvic correction technique that helps correct functional short leg in what we call kind of chiropractic 101. So anybody who's been to a chiropractor and been told they tend to have one leg that kind of functions shorter than the other will know what I'm referring to.
My hand's in the air, James.
What's that?
My hand's in the air. I was told that a few months ago.
Yeah, well, it's one of the most important things that you can correct if you want to, and I won't get into that discussion. And we'll probably talk about pelvic correction in one of the next shows, simply because it's so important to help get the pelvis back in alignment and help, the body function in its best way and cut back on wear and tear injury. Anyway, to go back to my VOXX example and the sort of 6 months of frustration of being out running, sort of feeling like I don't want to do this anymore, I put the insoles in one morning and I instantaneously staggered, and I mean staggered, to my functional short left side, and I kind of smiled. And I went out that morning, and it was like if I had rubber bands wrapped around my knees, it was like somebody had come across with scissors and cut those invisible bands, and I got a gear back running at 62. So you do the math on a 62-year-old who had Guillain-Barré and was in a wheelchair at 40, who's run, a huge amount in his life, being able to say I got a gear back at 62, and it literally made me a believer right then and there. I'm sitting right now with socks on my feet, and if my mother, who's no longer part of this space, if you will, was here, she'd laugh, because from the time I was a little kid, nobody could ever find me with socks. They just were always someplace other than on my feet. I wear these socks continually. The only time I take them off is when I go to bed. I could probably wear them overnight, but I don't want to. But the long story short of that is that when I have these socks on, my legs are stronger. I feel better. And when I start the day, it's morning coffee, CBD, and these socks, because those three together have me, firing on all cylinders, so to speak. And then it's time for workout, and we go on from there.
Quick question, and this is from a listener, and he wants to know, his name is Tom in Minnesota. He wants to know if you can wash the socks, or if washing the socks takes away any of the homeostasis, is what he says.
No, and that's a great question, Tom. Thank you, and welcome. Actually, the socks can be washed by hand. I put them, and actually I use them on gentle cycle in the washer, and then I lay them to dry. But they're made to be washed. I mean, they're socks, and people understand that they're going to have to be cleaned.
Okay, another question from Tom. When you put it in on the gentle cycle, do you put it by itself?
No, I put it in with the rest of the workout stuff that, like I've got pairs I wear for workout, and then pairs I wear right now, and so I'll put that all in together. And to be honest with you, the ones I wear working out, I kind of keep it in a place where my partner doesn't have to be around it too much. So I tend to try to do those every couple of days, because it's really only me that's interacting with them.
Yeah.
So, it's that kind of a thing. But they're made to be washed. And again, I just do it as gently as possible, and I lay them to dry.
Okay.
Just getting back to, and I don't want to keep going on with the stories, but a very good friend of mine who's probably, he'd be my vote for one of the best chiropractors on the planet. I visited him a little while ago, and, I hadn't seen him in a while. And when I did, he was kind of lumbering around a little bit. My question to him was actually, I hope you're taking care of you, because he's so good at taking other people. And I did the stability and balance test with him. And literally, he shouted out at the top of his lungs, "No way," when he felt the change. And when he did that, it just reinforced everything that I had also seen. And the final thing I'll say about it, Luke Robitaille, people will know as the president of the LA Kings, a retired Hall of Fame NHL player. He actually put the socks on, much like your description of being able to walk. He'd had a foot injury years and years ago, and it kind of had caused him to have some foot pain. And he wanted to go on sort of a thing with his wife where it was a very long walk, or hike for about 200 plus miles. And he wore the socks, had no problems whatsoever, and did an unpaid testimonial about VOXX because he felt so strongly about it. And I've got more and more, but I just don't want to keep going on here. So anyway, I'll give it. So basically, it's kind of for anybody who's interested in improving athletic performance, enjoying life more. One of the great things about these as well is that it's been proven these will reduce the likelihood of falling by about 8 times. So for anybody who's a senior, anybody who's working in a job where balance and those types of things are very important, I guess that would be true for everybody. It's another incredible benefit in that area of the VOXX HPT as well.
All right, another question from a listener, which I think would fit into this, and that would be from Betty in Toledo, Ohio. She wants to know how long the inserts will last in your shoes.
I think you could expect them to last, I'm going to say something in the order of years. I don't know if there's been any necessarily guarantees on that or any detailed study per se, but I've been running in mine for about 6 months plus. To my knowledge, there's no decline in them whatsoever. So I think you could expect, on average, somewhere in the order of a year. a year plus. And again, they're in the range of about $50. So you'll get very good wear out of them. And I'm probably understating it. But I haven't seen anything that said specifically, here's the period of time. So I'm finding with mine the longevity so far, and I have sneakers that wear out faster than these insoles do.
Yeah, you just got to take the insoles out and put them into new shoes. Especially if you're running a lot, you're not getting 6 months out of the shoes usually.
Actually, anyway, I won't do a sidebar, but my favorite pair of shoes aren't available anymore. So I'm literally wearing old, worn-out running shoes with these insoles in them because I like the way these shoes hit the ground for me, and the insoles have kind of restored them back to being useful again.
All right, so James, what should a listener do if they're interested in finding out more or possibly ordering some of the VOXX socks?
Well, I'm going to ask you to go to the website, again, www.VOXX replenishingcare.com, and that is our website. We're one of quite a number of people in the world who actually work with this technology. We think we have an interesting approach to it because of all the other things that we bring alongside it. So we're hoping people will be interested in working with us. But believe me, anybody listening to this, you're doing yourself a service to get these, and I'd be delighted just to know that we've shared the word. So if you go on that site, you're going to see a couple of different options there, and you'll see some of the videos I referenced, including the stability and balance video. But at the top, you'll see an option that says Try VOXX, and that's an option for somebody very simply to buy. The socks insoles or patches, and I should say the patches are literally something about twice the size of a postage stamp that goes on the underarm and connects to the peripheral nervous system that way. And if you get on there and you basically click on shop, it'll guide you into the various product choices. There's also an option, and some people hearing this might be into looking for something to get involved in. This is actually a network marketing distribution program. In any case, somebody who wants to get involved in working with the product because they believe in it. And that actually happened to my 80-year-old mentor who had such a wonderful recovery and was able to get back to walking and standing up straight, etc., that he and his wife got involved immediately so that they could give some to their friends and family. So if you want to get involved and just sort of check it out that way, you'll see Join VOXX as an associate. We know sometimes for practitioners, they're not necessarily, if some participate in the network marketing type of things. I have some I work with who prefer not to, and some are just sort of in the middle. But there's actually a wonderful practitioner program as part of VOXX as well. And if you're interested in checking that out, you can see something called Integrate VOXX, and they have all kinds of great support things there for how a practitioner would integrate this into his or her practice and thereby give the benefits of VOXX to their patients, clients, or the athletes that they're working with. And you'll see, and then generally on the site, you'll see a whole lot of other information as well. We put things together on an educational level. That's kind of our whole approach, because we found in getting to where the point we are now, where we're comfortable with a lot of technologies, there was a lot of kind of turning over, rocks until we found the right stuff. So you'll find the VOXX Life Replenishing Care site kind of capsulized a lot of the educational information into one spot, and we hope that's of some help to people who are interested in checking it out.
All right, so James, what do we got next week?
Well, I think what we're going to do next week is talk about how the pieces we've talked about so far all integrate together. So we'll probably, we'll be talking about the Replenishing Care home fitness system and how
All right, guys, we will be back next Tuesday live with James Comerford. Actually, then we will be probably talking about the new store that will be up on the Replenishing Care website, where you can buy everything you hear us talk about just by clicking on that website. So make sure that you come back, as we will discuss on the next show, the new Replenishing Care and Technology store. So make sure you check us out there. I want to remind everybody you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find the Grueling Truth. So for James Comerford, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to the Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.